So let's go over the agenda for the webinar. So we're going to begin with an overview of New York City Accelerator. Then we're going to go straight into discussing what energy efficiency actually means. So it's a term I've already said a lot. So we're going to make sure you have a concrete definition of energy efficiency. Then we'll talk about specific measures that can be taken to reduce electric heating and domestic hot water cost. We've chosen two case studies of buildings that have actually worked with New York City Accelerator, and we'll walk you through what that process looked like for them. There are several incentive programs available to help fund the cost of these projects, and we're also going to go over those. And I'm excited to talk about a new grant program that we have launched this year for affordable housing multifamily buildings at the end of this presentation. Lastly, we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes to answer questions you all have. We've kept the content of this presentation somewhat short to allow more time for questions, so I encourage you all to speak up. That being said, there's going to be a lot of content, a lot of new information, so please interact with the chat if you have any questions, and we'll get to it at the end. Also, another housekeeping item, just remember to keep yourself on mute. You could take yourself off mute at the end if you have any questions, but definitely just use the mute function. Formally introduce myself, I am Jasmine Espew. I'm the community coordinator with New York City Accelerator, and I will be spending the next few minutes introducing the program. So what is New York City Accelerator? So it's a free New York City sponsored program by the mayor's office that helps buildings control energy cost, meet compliance for local laws, boost building energy performance, and increase energy savings. The goal is to work with buildings like the ones that you represent to reduce building carbon emissions across the city. So when you participate in New York City Accelerator, you get free technical assistance from our team. So you're assigned an account manager that'll identify building upgrades best suited for your particular buildings, and they're there to walk you through the process. And I'll spend a little bit more time over the next few slides discussing what that process looks like. So depending on the size of your building, if it's over 25,000 square feet, for example, you're subject to local laws. If that's applicable, we work with you to help your building fall into compliance. Another unique feature of Accelerator is that we also offer no to low cost building operator training. So if you'd like to build your knowledge on building and energy topics, this is something that we can connect you with as well. You're also connected with licensed and experienced service providers for scope work. So you don't have to worry about finding providers on your own to do energy upgrades. Accelerator also connects you with financing options and incentive programs best suited for you and your building. The type and amount of incentives or financing options you qualify for will depend on a couple of different factors, but we do have our financing specialist available for questions and other upcoming events that we can point you towards. So who is eligible? How does New York City Accelerator work? So any privately owned building that's 5,000 square feet or larger, whether it's new or existing, is eligible for the program. So unfortunately, we don't work with buildings smaller than 5,000 square feet, but we do have partner organizations that we can refer your building to. So how does the program work? So you call us or email us, and we'll provide you with our contact information at the end. And you're connected with an account manager who will give you objective advice customized to the needs of you and your building. So how much does it cost? What's the catch? So there's no sign up, there's no cost, there's no catch. If there's one thing to take away about New York City Accelerator is that it is a completely free program. So what does a typical client experience look like? So first you learn about the program as you all are today. And once you've decided that this is the program you want to participate in, the needs of your buildings are assessed by an account manager. Then the upgrades best suited to your building are given to you. But as a building owner or manager, you're choosing the upgrades that you implement. So no suggestion is a requirement. Once you're in the process of implementation, and even after the project is completed, we still stay in touch. So in a nutshell, we customize our services to different types of building stakeholders as well. The process might look different depending if you're a building owner, operator, property manager, so on. But depending on certain building criteria and scope of the undertaken project, our program will also connect you with relevant financing options. Something that I do want to note is that there is no limit to the number of consultations you have with an account manager. So it's a free service. It's here to help you every step of the way, from upgrades to financing and project follow-up. I do want to distinguish between what we do and don't do. As I mentioned, New York City Accelerator provides free expert advice towards energy efficiency and decarbonization projects, but it doesn't replace or compete with service providers. So we don't do energy audits, feasibility analysis, or reports of that nature, but we can connect you to service providers that do. So before we jump into some definitions, I want to ask everybody who's on this call how confident you are in your knowledge of energy efficiency. So in the chat, you can write not confident, somewhat confident, or confident. I won't ask you to elaborate on it, so there's no pressure. But just to gauge where everyone's knowledge is at in energy within energy efficiency. Okay, somewhat, not confident, somewhat. Okay, well, everyone's in the right place then. So we often use the term energy efficiency. It's a bit of industry jargon that you may or may not be familiar with. But simply put, it's when we use less energy to perform the same task. So almost all systems in your building can be more energy efficient. The boiler that heats your building, the lighting in your hallway or within a unit, appliances related to cooking, cleaning, washing, drying your clothes. So the list goes on. So implementing energy efficiency measures can mean replacing older equipment with more efficient equipment, or it can mean implementing upgrades to equipment for it to run more efficiently. And this is a process that we call retrofitting. So are there any energy efficiency measures that you're thinking of pursuing currently? Are there measures you've already taken advantage of? Definitely let us know in the chat so we can have a better understanding of who's on our webinar today. If there are no energy efficiency measures, that's okay too. You're going to learn some during this webinar. But I'm going to pass things over to my colleague, Aisha.
Hi everyone, my name is Aisha Ali and I am an account manager with NYC Accelerator. I will be covering electric energy conservation measures. Next, please. Let's take a look at building electrical systems and their role in building energy use. Electrical systems account for about 13 to 15% of a building's total energy consumption in New York City multifamily buildings, depending on when the building was constructed and its size. This includes lighting, cooling, pumps that distribute water, fans for ventilation, motors for elevators, appliances, and plug loads. Electrical usage can also be improved by switching to LEDs, buying certified energy efficient equipment, and improving air tightness by adding insulation and air sealing. This graph here shows the electrical consumption of a pre-war low-rise NYC multifamily building being about 13%, including apartment meters. Next slide, please. LEDs have a few advantages over traditional incandescent and fluorescent lighting. These include significant energy savings because most of their energy is to create light instead of creating light and heat. To illustrate, LED lamps may cost more to purchase, but because of their dramatically lower energy usage, a bulb may cost you $7 a year to power, while LEDs only run you about $1 a year. LEDs also have a longer lifespan and are more durable, so they require little maintenance. That further increases operational savings. Some other benefits of LEDs include high quality lighting with a broad range of colors and being well suited for both indoor and outdoor lighting applications. Here's an example of a case study that shows savings of $6,700 a year, or 60% after upgrading fluorescent hallway lighting with LEDs and occupancy sensors. Next slide, please. So why are we recommending LED retrofits? An LED lighting upgrade is among one of the most cost-effective means for building owners to lower their energy use, cut operating costs, and reduce their carbon footprints. The retrofits have a 1 to 3 year payback with incentives. Also, LED lighting upgrades can be completed at different levels of complexity and cost, so they're customizable for your building. A retrofit may include simply replacing individual components such as lamps or bulbs to relighting and redesigning entire spaces with new fixtures. Adding lighting controls such as occupancy sensors, bi-level lighting, and photocells that dim or turn off lights when not needed can be added into a retrofit to further increase energy and cost savings. Advanced lighting upgrades can also help building owners comply to New York City codes and regulation, which includes Local Law 88, which requires buildings over 25,000 square feet to upgrade to LED lighting by 2025. Next slide, please. When comparing these two pictures, what are the differences that you see? The room on the bottom shows the same space as above after it's been retrofitted with LEDs. You can tell that the space looks brighter and bigger because of the LEDs. The space has a renovated look without the owner having to spend a ton of money. This is something that you can implement in your old building, in your building common area, to have a similar effect. The purpose of showing these different pictures is to illustrate how LED lighting upgrades can also enhance lighting quality and aesthetics, which can improve occupant well-being and increase property value and rent. Next slide, please. Some other ways you can reduce electrical usage in your building include incorporating variable speed drives for heating and domestic hot water circulatory pumps, using efficient motors in elevator and fan systems, upgrading to higher efficiency air conditioning units for building common areas, and replacing existing older window AC units and appliances with Energy Star rated products, which typically use about 20% less energy. If your building currently uses electricity for heating and has high electric costs as a result, you can save money by retrofitting your building with heat pumps. Heat pumps are a much more efficient form of technology that provide both heating and cooling. Next slide, please. Now we can discuss incentives. If your building has a Con Edison bill, common area electric bill of more than 5 residential units, you're eligible for the incentives that I'm going to talk about. Generally speaking, there are prescriptive incentives based on equipment installed that allow you to replace your building's existing older lighting with energy efficient LED lamps and fixtures in all building common areas. There are also similar type incentives for lighting controls, including occupancy sensors and bi-level fixtures with built-in motion sensors. The incentives can cover up to 85% of the lighting retrofit costs, but this can vary depending on what type of lighting you currently have in your building and whether or not your building is considered market rate or affordable. There are also free 9-watt LED A lamps available for every apartment in your building. There's no minimum participation percentage, but participants have to allow installation teams to access their units. There are also incentives for HVAC equipment, including variable frequency drives, EC motors, packaged terminal air conditions, and central air conditioning units based on energy or kilowatt hours saved. Next slide, please. In specific areas of Brooklyn and Queens, there are enhanced incentives available for lighting retrofits and other electric energy measures to reduce grid demand. These bonus incentives are available in neighborhoods shown on the map, spanning from East Flatbush in Brooklyn all the way to Kew Gardens and South Ozone Park in Queens. If your building is located in one of these neighborhoods, you might be eligible for a free or near free lighting retrofit. Next slide, please. Now let's discuss heat pumps. A variety of different types of heat pump technologies are incentivized, including air source heat pumps. Air source heat pumps transfer heat between the surrounding outside air and building indoor air to provide heating and cooling for your building. There are many different types of air source heat pump technologies that qualify for incentives, including mini splits, which are ideal for smaller buildings. Variable refrigerant flow systems that are meant for larger buildings over 7 stories, and cold climate PTAC heat pumps that replace existing packaged terminal units that use gas or oil. There are also incentives for heat pump water heaters that are ideal for replacing existing oil burning domestic hot water heating systems. The incentive structure depends on the size of the building and the technology installed. So they can either be per unit, like for smaller buildings, or saving space, like for larger buildings. In all cases, our team at NYC Accelerator can help you verify eligibility for different incentive programs and help expedite the process of getting your projects implemented. Next slide. Now I'd like to introduce my colleague, Yang-Chin Doma.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yang Chandoma, and I'm an account manager with the New York City Accelerator program. I'm going to spend some time today talking about gas energy conservation measures. Next slide, please. So I want to begin discussing the importance of heating in your buildings. Close to half of the energy used by multifamily buildings goes towards heating the space itself, which is why it's so important that we address retrofits that reduce the need for heating production. Chances are your building uses a steam heating distribution system, which is the most common system in New York City right now. While traditional steam boilers are most common, they are not always the most efficient. Domestic hot water accounts for roughly a quarter of energy use in multifamily buildings. It also takes energy to heat the water in faucets, showers, and washing machines. So by focusing on upgrades relating to space heating and domestic hot water, you're already tackling more than 2/3 of your building's energy use. Next slide, please. About 65% of water usage in a building is for hot water, which means you're not only paying for the water supply and delivery, but you're also paying additional gas charges to heat the water. So saving on gas utilities goes hand in hand with water conservation. So we've listed out a number of water conservation measures, which are very simple retrofits, such as installing low-flow aerators, which will reduce water consumption and heating fuel usage required to produce domestic hot water. They're also easy to install, like I mentioned, inexpensive, and save you hundreds of gallons of water a year. High-efficiency shower heads are also a great option when it comes to saving water. And a lot of you might already be familiar with Energy Star label on appliances that have become an industry standard. Energy Star products use less energy in appliances because they have to meet a strict criteria set by the EPA and the DOE. A fraction of the heat the hot water generates also dissipates into the nearby air. So insulating hot water heaters and pipes that deliver water to the building units help to prevent that. Insulation retrofits are a relatively simple retrofit and can raise water temperature by 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit and reduce the wait for water to heat, which aids in water conservation as well. For larger buildings, the boiler is also used for domestic hot water, but we recommend to install a separate hot water heater. Boilers can be costly to run and are typically only used for colder months, whereas a combined unit requires the boiler to be used all year and can put unnecessary wear on it. More efficient hot water heaters can also be installed, or existing ones can be retrofitted. Next slide, please. So let's take a moment to familiarize you all with building envelope. This visualization of a building shows the difference in energy loss before the building has undergone envelope upgrades and after. Building envelope refers to the boundary between the conditioned air inside of your building and the exterior air of the environment, which is a key component in making your building energy efficient. This means paying attention to areas where air leakage occurs, like windows, doors, frames, roofs, even recessed lighting fixtures where conditioned air can escape. Lack of insulation in the walls is harder to address, but this image shows how much energy is wasted with a poor envelope and the importance of a building envelope retrofit. Next slide, please. So we've gone over building envelope, so let's take a look at some concrete measures that can be taken to tighten a building's envelope. A great first step is air seal leaks at their source, and make sure to weather strip your doors and windows. Removing or covering AC units in the winter can also reduce drafts in your building. If that is not an option, sealing around the unit can also be an alternative, which can save as much as $50 a year per apartment in heating costs. Getting into some deeper retrofits, adding insulation to your buildings helps with your building's performance and comfort, as well as replacing older windows that have reached the end of their useful life. Energy Star rated windows save heating fuel by reducing conduction and infiltration heat losses. On installing cool roofs, most of the roofs in New York City are blacktop roofs right now, which tend to trap heat. And during the summer, roof temperatures can reach almost 190 degrees Fahrenheit, which affects the temperature of building units. So cool roofing involves painting a white coating on a roof that reflects solar energy instead of absorbing it. It can reduce internal temperatures by 30%, reducing the need to run AC units. NYC works with a program that installs these roofs at low or no cost, depending on the building's criteria. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the most common heating systems in New York City right now are steam boilers, but they aren't necessarily the most efficient. Steam boilers came about during the 1800s as a simple but effective way to heat multifamily buildings. They don't require pumps or motors, and although steam boilers today run on oil or gas, they were designed to run on coal. So a major reason why some New York City apartments are so hot in the winter is because steam boilers were designed to heat a space even with the windows open. So steam boilers still work and are a simple way to heat our buildings, but optimization is needed for modern times. Steam boilers today can be retrofitted to start and stop as needed, which improves resident comfort, as well as reducing energy costs and greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide, please. So there are two types of steam boilers, a one-pipe and a two-pipe system. Both work to distribute steam through a building's pipes to radiators to heat occupant spaces. One-pipe steam system, as pictured here, connects one pipe to each radiator, where steam flows from the boiler to the radiators, where it displaces the cold air by pushing it out through a vent on the radiator, and the air vent closes automatically when the radiator is full of steam. Two-pipe systems are typically found in buildings with 6 stories or more. So the best way to approach this when it comes to addressing steam heating optimization is looking at the system as a whole. And master venting is a common energy retrofit which balances steam flow to risers by delivering steam heat to all rooms and spaces. The cost-effective solutions to fix steam heating systems can save between $10,000 to $30,000 a year on energy costs. Next slide, please. So another retrofit that we have on steam heating optimization is TRVs, also known as thermostatic radiator valves. TRVs are thermostatically controlled devices that open and close to allow the space to maintain a desired set point temperature. They also convert the building's single-level heating system to a room-level multi-zone system, allowing occupants far greater control of their heat, significantly reducing underheating and overheating in the building. This retrofit rezones the heating distribution so that each radiator connect to a TRV becomes its own heating system. Next. And then to continue on to steam heating optimizations, we also have advanced controls. So this retrofit advanced controls with multiple indoor temperature sensors. The objective is that the boiler responds to indoor and outdoor air temperature. Most boilers operate based on the outside air temperature only, but this may not reflect what the temperatures inside the building feels, which is what leads to overheating in buildings. When you install wireless temperature sensors and boiler controls that communicate with them, it allows the boiler to read temperatures inside and outside the building instead, which lets each unit get the right amount of heat at the right time. Next slide, please. So more on steam boilers. We have a diagram here, which is a pipe in a steam boiler system where you have steam and condensate flowing in the same pipe. So a simple retrofit that we can do is a boiler clean and tune, because keeping boilers clean and free of oil or contaminants ensures that it will run efficiently. When you do have a buildup of contaminants or debris within the pipe, the flow of the water can become irregular, like you can see in figure 3, and affect how heat is distributed. So sometimes this can explain why your boiler is making noise. This helps to avoid the system failing and having to pay for any emergency services while also increasing your building's efficiency. So I know I've talked a lot I've shared a lot of information about building technology and things, but our program account managers at the New York City Accelerator are here to walk you through the entire process. We can also connect you with qualified and experienced contractors so that you don't have to go through DIY projects on your own or the guesswork of determining which upgrades are best for your building. And like Jasmine mentioned earlier, the program is free. So we urge you to please make use of this free program and all our account managers at NYCA. Next slide, please. So to move forward to talk about some incentives for specific measures, all the measures that we talked about in the past slides there are associated incentives, and some of them can be free as well. Through programs partnered with the New York City Accelerator, in-unit high-efficiency shower heads and faucet aerators are actually free. And as far as the other incentivized retrofits listed here, the incentive dollar amounts will depend upon whether your building is classified as affordable or market rate. One example is a boiler clean and tune for a boiler plant in the market rate building can receive up to $500 incentives. And most incentives within this program will incentivize the amount of energy saved. So the more energy the retrofit conserves, the higher the incentive payout will be. Next slide, please. So a little bit more information on the incentives for comprehensive upgrades for affordable multifamily housing. Programs that offer incentives for It's a program that offers incentives for installing energy efficient equipment and technologies for affordable multifamily buildings. There's a program which is a statewide joint effort between NYSERDA and the New York State Utilities. For eligibility, buildings must be of multifamily affordable housing, consist of 5 or more dwelling units, and have active utility accounts for either Con Ed or National Grid. And there's sort of 2 pathways to go about that program, which is non-comprehensive versus comprehensive. In non-comprehensive pathway, which is ideal for smaller upgrades where projects don't meet the 100-point minimum, incentives are determined by equipment installed as well as the energy savings. Whereas for a comprehensive, which is ideal for larger projects or whole building retrofits, um, that meet the 100-point minimum, incentives are calculated on a number of dwelling units with incentives ranging from $1,500 per unit to $2,000 per unit. The incentives, however, are capped at 85% of the total project costs for eligible measures. Next slide, please. So these are some of the eligible measures. part of the program. As you can see from the point system that I was mentioning, if a building were to get just window replacement, wall insulation, and a boiler replacement, that's already 120 points. That puts them at a comprehensive pathway. So if your building ranges from 100 to 150, your incentive would be multiplied by $1,500 times the number of dwelling units. And then if you were to do all three of these, plus let's say a domestic hot water heater and one of the smaller retrofits like air sealing, that would put you above 150, where your incentives would be calculated times $2,000 per unit. Next slide, please. So we've talked about electric measures and gas measures and one of the incentive programs that go along with it. Another incentive program that we have for partial or full electrification is the Climate Friendly Homes Fund, which is administered by the Community Preservation Corporation, where they provide financing in a form of a forgivable loan for existing 5 to 50 multifamily buildings. The fund aims to finance comprehensive retrofits that are seeking either full or partial electrification and will provide up to $25,000 per unit. So for just a quick eligibility process, buildings that currently have a regulatory agreement with a public agency or fall under the Disadvantaged Communities Tract or the low to moderate income qualified census tract, they would be eligible to go through a further screening process. And eligible use of funds include heating system replacement with high efficiency heat pumps for heating and cooling, domestic hot water system replacement with high efficiency heat pump water heaters, additional electric service upgrades to support the new HVAC and domestic hot water systems. And the fund can also be used to cover associated engineering and consultant costs, origination fees, closing fees, and legal fees. For more information on the Climate Friendly Homes Fund, I have my contact here. I'll also put it in the chat at the end. Next slide, please. So I'll pass it on to my colleague Anne now to go over some case studies.
Okay, great. Thank you, Yang. And again, my name is Anne Rahikainen, and I'm a manager here at the New York City Accelerator program. And as Yang just said, I'm going to review two case studies with you that show smaller New York City multifamily buildings that have installed some simple energy efficiency upgrades, the types that we've been talking about today during today's presentation. And in both of these cases, the owners took advantage of incentives to get the projects done. And we have tracked these projects so that we can get a sense of the possible energy savings created and the amount of incentives available for these types of projects. Next slide. All right, so the first case study shows a 15-unit pre-war affordable multifamily building. And in this case, the owner took advantage of gas incentives to add some insulation to the building envelope. And they also insulated domestic hot water and steam pipes in the building basement. The project reduced heat losses from the heating system and also improved thermal comfort of the building occupants. Yeah, for this particular project, the project cost was just over $16,000, and incentives from utilities covered 67% of the project cost. This fairly simple project created over $1,700 in annual savings to the building owner, and with the incentive, the simple payback for this project was just a little over 3 years. Next slide, please. The second case study shows a 10-unit pre-war market rate multifamily building in New York City. And in this particular case, the owner implemented 3 projects, which included common area LED lighting upgrade. They also installed energy efficient motors to improve airflow control in the building. And they updated boiler controls to optimize their heating system performance. The incentives covered anywhere from 48 to 89% of the project costs, and with paybacks of less than 1 year to just over 4 years for the individual projects. All of the projects provided very quick return on investment to the owner. And this case study, or the two case studies that we actually have shown today, both really show why investment in building energy efficiency upgrades is a really wise decision. I think it's especially true now with the rising energy costs in New York City that are putting a lot of pressure on building owners. And regarding the project financials, to summarize, for all three projects combined, the total out-of-pocket investment for the owner was $17,000, and the cost savings will pay back the investment in less than 2 years. And once the investment is paid for, after those 2 years, the owner will see benefit of almost $10,000 in annual utility bill savings that they can put in their pocket or use for other purposes. Next slide. So to finish up our presentation today, I want to talk about another grant program that is available directly through New York City Accelerator. And this particular program is funded by NYSERDA's Clean Energy Communities program. Through this initiative, we can also provide grants up to $25,000. We have 5 grants available, and these grants will provide financial support for adoption of clean energy retrofits. Regarding the eligibility requirements, we can fund buildings that are non-profit or owner-occupied affordable multifamily buildings under 25,000 square feet, but should each have 5 or more residential units. And also there should be some type of income restrictions on the building occupants. So buildings like Mitchell Lamas, HDFC co-ops, or for instance, senior type housing would be eligible type properties. And then the final eligibility requirement is that the buildings need to be located in Upper Manhattan, Central Brooklyn, or South Bronx. And we have defined these areas by community districts. So if you have a building that you think might qualify, you can reach out to us and we can help you check the eligibility of your building for this program. And for this grant program, we can fund a range of projects anywhere from HVAC upgrades to solar, lighting, building envelope improvements, electrification with heat pumps, and also decarbonization studies. So quite a wide range. We are currently already accepting applications. So if you're interested, you should reach out to us as soon as possible. The deadline for applications for this program is April 21st. And, once we get to the next slide, there will be some contact information that Jasmine is going to share with all of you. And you can just use the phone numbers and the email provided there to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to tell you more about the program and also share the link to the application where you can put in the information for your project for consideration. So that's the end of our presentation, and now I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine.
All right, thanks, Anne. So as mentioned, here's our contact information. So you can visit our website at accelerator.nyc. You can email us at info@accelerator.nyc, or you can give us a call at 212-656-9202. You could also access our website by scanning that QR code. But now I want to open up the floor for any questions. So you can either take yourself off of mute, or you can drop some questions in the chat for us to answer.
Hi, everyone. You guys said that there would be these slides would be available in the future.
Yeah, so you can reach out to us and we can send you a copy of these slides.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, you can reach out to my personal email, and I'll drop that in the chat right now.
I have a question.
Yes.
You said that there was a list of contractors that you guys work with.
Yes.
Is there any way that we can, I guess, get a list of those contractors, or how do we get in contact with them? You know,
Mhm. And do you want to jump in with that question? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. I was on mute. So I think that there's a couple of ways that you can go about it. If you are not sure yet about the type of projects that you would like to implement, you can reach out to us and you can have a conversation with one of the account managers that can guide you and help you prioritize projects. If you feel like you already know what you want to do and just want to connect with the service provider, we have a list of service providers on our website that you can search through. But I think that we highly recommend that you have a consultation with one of our account managers because they are experts, for instance, on these different types of incentive programs that can be available to help you pay for the project. So it's always worthwhile to start the process with one of the account managers. But there's a lot of great resources on our website, which is provided here on this page. It's accelerator.nyc. So you can go and visit the site and look for different types of information.
So I see another question in the chat. So is this program available only for mixed use buildings? So New York City Accelerator is available for all residential, commercial, and mixed use buildings. So no, not only mixed use buildings. So long as the building is 5,000 square feet or larger, it's eligible for the program.
Thank you, everyone, for the presentation. This is Michael. I have a question regarding the process of the accelerator program. How long does it usually take for the evaluation?
Yang, do you want to jump in for that question?
Yeah, sorry, evaluation regarding what exactly?
Evaluation regarding the energy efficiencies that can happen for a building or otherwise.
Okay, so a little background on how the process would be is when you contact the info@accelerator.com, it might take 1 to 2 business days for you to be connected to an account manager, and the account manager will generally respond to you within 48 hours. And within then, if you would like to set up a meeting to go over, any energy efficiency that measures that you're looking for and incentive programs that you want more information with. So to answer your question, the process should be about less than a week. Regarding specific energy efficiency measures, if you're not sure what you need to do, we would also ask for any local law, any like retrofit reports that you have or any benchmarking reports that you have to sort of like serve as a base for any measures that were recommended there. And then we can go from there to see what incentives would be best for the type of building that you have.
But yeah, I would add to what Yang was saying that typically the process is fairly quick and we respond quickly. And then depending on the speed that you want to proceed, I think we can complete the initial assessment of your property and come up with recommendations very quickly.
Great. So another question I see in the chat, is there a similar program for single family homes?
Yeah, so I don't believe that there is exactly this type of program for single family buildings in New York City that would include this type of advice, but there are a lot of there are incentive programs available that cover energy efficiency retrofit costs in single family buildings. And if you reach out to us, we can point you to the right direction.
So another question I see in the chat, would this program help finance deep energy retrofits, just passive house retrofit, MEP, and envelope upgrades? I know Andrew Chintz is on, who's our financing specialist. And so Andrew, if you're on, I don't know if you want to take a stab at that question, but you could take yourself off of mute.
Hi, Jasmine. Sorry, I was I did get on, and I'm wondering. I'm sort of jumping in here, but I'm wondering if you could repeat the question.
Yep. So would this program help finance a deep energy retrofit, such as a passive house retrofit?
This program being the
Like Accelerator.
ah, sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
Mhm.
sorry about that. I was just trying to get caught up here. Yeah, so the accelerator is in the services that we provide, which I think you've heard about earlier on. We also have a financing assistance, and as the financing specialist, I can help the building owners with our other team members at Accelerator. That once you have created a scope of work and you've defined that and you have an idea of the cost, I can help identify the financing programs that would be available. This could be New York City Accelerator PACE financing, and there's plenty of other non-PACE financing that I can help connect you with and help you navigate through. And so I think the question was, would this apply to deep retrofits, passive house retrofits? And absolutely it would. In fact, if you were going to that level of either a new construction or retrofit, that would even be more attractive in a sense to some of the, or I should say more attractive or even more eligible, because a lot of the lenders, whether it is PACE or these other non-PACE lenders, they are actually, some of them are nonprofits, they're mission driven, they're actually looking to push building owners or facilitate deep retrofits like passive house. And so that would even come as a bigger goal for these lenders. So hopefully that answers the question. But yes, absolutely, the financing can, we can provide financing for that level of retrofit. Did I answer that? Again, I apologize for kind of jumping in the middle here.
Yeah, so Justin, I see the part two to your question. So if so, do you do the energy modeling necessary for such a retrofit, or would you rely on an outside? I rely on an outside team for that. So our team at New York City Accelerator doesn't do we don't do energy modeling. That's usually something that we refer. We have service providers who do. However, sorry, Andrew, I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I was just going to say that yeah, you would need to do that on the side. We can help you with finding service providers that do that. Some of the financing also requires that an energy audit is required for some of the financing so that they can determine what the measures are, what the costs are, what the savings are. That's all part of the financing process in some cases.
Yeah, and I would add to what Andrew was saying, Andrew specializes in connecting building owners with different loan financing programs. But even during this presentation, we described one incentive program that Yang covered that provides incentives for quite deep retrofits, if not necessarily passive house retrofits, but deep retrofits in affordable multifamily buildings that provide incentives for many different types of building retrofit components. And there are other programs that incentivize building carbonization projects through NYSERDA. So there's options for both incentives as well as loan financing for those type of projects. And we also have solar specialists on the team here at New York City Accelerator that can help walk building owners through that process, do a solar evaluation, explain all the incentives that and tax credits that might be available for solar projects. So we can help with that process.
Great. So, are there any other questions? Feel free to type in the chat or just take yourself off of mute. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation. So as we mentioned, please reach out to us if any questions come up. As you learn more about the program, you can reach out to we've provided our emails. You could also reach out to the info email or give us a call. If you're interested in getting a copy of this presentation, please reach out to me at jasmine@accelerator.nyc. Or if you just like more information. But thank you to my presenters and thank you all for joining us today. Have a great day, guys.